What horrible realizations have you had about people in your life? About myself and my grandfather. My natural musk smells like my grandfather's basement. I always thought it was a weird coincidence. It's not a bad smell. Well, a few years into my adulthood, I started dating this girl who used to smoke weed. She said I smell like weed and wondered if I had any. I was like, WTF. No, I have never smoked weed. And then I realized my grandfather's basement smell was what weed smells like. My grandfather smoked weed, and yay, I have had a few women point out I smell like weed. No idea why. My sweat smells like weed, too. I don't smoke and didn't realize it until my boyfriend at the time invited his friends over to smoke. I'm so nervous that my vagina smells now. I know it smells when I'm on my period, but I can't take care of it. Maybe it smells all the time and I just don't know it. I don't even know who to ask for a second opinion. First time my wife got pregnant, I went with her to the OB. The walls between the exam rooms were really thin and we could hear the doctor talking to the girl in the next room. I will regrettably remember this quote the rest of my life. That certainly is a foul odor emanating from your vagina. As a teenager, like most boys, I joked about becoming a gino. That one visit convinced me that would have been the biggest mistake of my life. Susie took Arp's advice. For years I thought my grandfather wore a really weird cologne. I finally realized when was older worked in a bar that my grandfather was an alcoholic and that smell was the smell of a bar beer. The first time I smoked weed, my immediate thought was that's weird. Smells like dad's cologne. Took me 4 years to realize that one. Yikes, I've never had a realization like this at all, but as a woman, I feel obligated to say this. You might want to slip her an anonymous hint that she should see her gynecologist about this. A healthy vagina should never smell through clothes like that, and she could have something that might be very easy to treat. At this point, she may have no clue that she is smelly at all because her brain could be ignoring the scent as brains tend to do with scents that have been there for a long time. Sorry for that. Back to story sharing. Kind of glad I don't have a story to offer. I don't have any advice for you, but I do understand what you are going through. I had a roommate in college who also smelled. I couldn't figure out what that smell was for the longest time until one of my guy friends who hooked up with her one drunken night told me that she smelled. Then it was all I could smell when I was around her. It was really unpleasant. That's my issue too. And it's like, now that I know what that smell is, it almost seems stronger. I realized recently that most of my school friends, family, adult friends, and basically the people I choose to hang out with are all pretty much buttholes. I have horrible taste in people, just the worst. I know how you feel. I realized a lot of my friends were buttholes too, so I cut them out of my life. Now I'm down to 2 friends, and sometimes they don't like doing the things I want to go do. Feels lonely sometimes, but I figured it's better to be alone than be around bad company. I thought my mom always smelled amazing because, you know, being an awesome person makes you smell good. Shut up, I was 8, but then I found her deodorant and that was what it was. It's sweet that you associated your mom's good smell with the belief that it was just because she was awesomely super cool. One day I realized that the only reason my mom loved me was because she was afraid that I would kill her. She was diagnosed with paranoia schizophrenia, similar to how John Nash believed people were out to kill him. It was very strange when I found out. I mean, I'm not saying she never really did love me, but after she stopped blaming other people of trying to kill her, she finally turned on me. First year of college, a girl I vaguely knew in high school also happens to go to the same university. We are both civil, having polite but incredibly boring conversations. I try and make it clear I do not want to be friends with her. Besides not having a thing in common or similar interests, she is crazy stinky, sort of musky, not really a body odor scent. It's just awful. I could never really place it. I thought it was because she was constantly working out, always wearing yoga pants and maybe just not showering properly. Fast forward towards the end of first semester and she's in my dorm to hang out with my roommate while I fart around on the internet. Eventually she leaves and hours later I get my butt in bed, only to experience the nastiest freaking musky smell. This be just pee and ocean in my goddamn bed. I really don't have any idea why. She never brings it up again and acts as if nothing happened. I don't bring it up in fear that she has incontinence issues, but I'm still peeved that I had to wash all my sheets and bed toppers. I later found out through the grapevine that her roommates weren't exactly the nicest people, and at one point gave her a tube of Vagisil as a backhanded gift. Only the girl in question responds with "oh thanks. I've been noticing a weird smell lately." It was her freaking nasty vagina. All the time. Every day. All over my bed. TL. DR. Girl with a funky vagina pisses all over my bed for no goddamn reason. Why is that the top rated comments are similar to the OP? I want some variety. The question asks for horrible realizations about people in your life not anyone else met people with smelly genitals? Happens with every AskReddit thread. Tell us your eye roll karma moment with OP telling his story about tailgaters getting pulled over seconds after speeding past the OP. Rest of the thread is full of identical stories. A few years ago I was chilling and playing Xbox with a friend on my couch when he suddenly groaned a little, stood up and left the room without saying a word. I noticed a strange smell, so I looked around a bit in the room and realized that smell came from right next to me. I turned my head to see the most disgusting thing ever. The guy had literally just crap on my couch. Apparently he had the runs. It must have been really bad too. Because, how do you manage to have crap so fluid that it runs through your pants and leaves a spot on the couch? I have no idea, but what I know is that there was a large brown spot of crap there. I assure you my username is not relevant here. My brother would always put his finger up to my nose and it forced me to smell it. It smelled like butt. Later on I realized, with only the layer of his underwear protecting his finger, he was shoving his finger up his butt the whole time. If anyone who didn't just finger bang a girl tells you to smell their finger, it will smell like their butt. One of my exes and I tried to be friends for a little and she told me that her new guy had a huge dong, and then she proceeds to tell me that he iced and circumcised and doesn't clean it well. So it is freaking disgusting. It is rank and moldy and generally a tube of disgust. She says that she has tried to clean it herself, and even go down on him with a mouthful of mouthwash or something, but nothing helps. That relationship didn't last very long. Whoa, a mouthful of mouthwash. That's love right there. Related. After splitting from my last relationship of 12 years together since teens, my first foray into the dating world took me to some interesting places. The first time I hooked up with another woman, it was literally the worst sexual experience of my life. The odor was noxious. I mean surprise. I'm having kinda level and she laid there nearly catatonic while I did my thing, which in my fricked up head I had to as she would wonder why I stopped. In my attempt to literally never be naked near her again, I saw no other excuse better than to drop off the face of the planet. Not my finest moment. I stopped dating for a while after that. I had myself convinced I had just lucked out previously with a decently pleasant smelling lady bits. Turns out that's not the case. Thank fricking God. A girl who lived in my dorm freshman year of college thought she had an STD because of itching burning. She goes to the student health center and finds out she just needs to take a shower. She proceeds to not shower and continue forcing her boyfriend to go down on her. I don't personally like moldy vaginas. I used to live with 4 male roommates. As a female, my hair was the longest and would often tangle and clog the shower's drain. I would clean the drain of hair after each use and would sometimes be unfortunate enough to find something which I thought was snot or a coughed up phlegm ball in the shower drain as well. Ick. But wait, there's more. One of my roommates, tired of me always complaining about the shower, admits to masturbation while in the shower, so I had actually been touching their drain babies. Great. That can be caused by a disorder. I've read about women never being able to rid themselves of the smell no matter how hygienic they are, because TS a genetic disease I have. Can't remember the name off the top of my head. Months ago, a female posted that she had this issue going on in r/2xc. For some reason, It attracted all these other smelly females who were commiserating with her. I made a post that smelling this way isn't natural, and it's either an infection, a cleanliness issue, or both. Instantly I got about 1 billion downvotes, along with women, girls, really, arguing that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a 45-year-old female who works with girls in the system. I've frequently had to take them to OB-GYNs because they needed treatment for various infections due to abuse and prostituting themselves. I've also worked for 2 doctors. But, of course, I know nothing. Amusing. Not so much a realization about a specific person, but when I was in the car as a kid with my super Asian parents, we'd sometimes pass certain wooded areas and get this nice whiff of something or other. My mom always attributed it to skunks and complained about how lately they were just crawling all over town. Then I went to college and smelled it in the staircase of my dorm. I complained to my friends about how it smelled like skunk and then like an hour later realized it was pot. Where I'm from, skunk is a slang term for weed. My grandpa has worked as a butcher his entire life. I just assumed he had a certain old guy cologne he always wore. It wasn't until someone cut open a package of raw meat and poured the blood out did I realize what he smelled like was actually blood raw meat. TLDR, my grandpa smells like blood. New Reddit meetup idea. Random Redditors get together to smell one another to make sure they don't have vaginas that smell like an open grave or BO that could sedate a bull moose. My family never told me my real name. I went to my first day of school ever, lost and confused as frick when I didn't hear my name during roll call. Turns out, everyone in my family had been calling me by my middle name my whole life up until that point, and that my real name was some strange jumble of letters I'd never even heard before. Took a while getting used to, still feels weird people addressing me by it. For all of you people asking about showering cleaning cooches, and why they smell, here's some info from a lady. Washing with soap down there can lead to infections. That area is naturally acidic and can get rid of the bacteria itself. It can also dry out or irritate the area. Douching is a terrible idea too. I forgot why, but it's probably along the same lines. All you need is to rinse it with water and keep your stuff in order. Trimming, landscaping, etc. Just be clean. Oh, and as for the smell, it has to do a lot with what you drink and eat, and how healthy you are. If you drink a lot of soda, I think Dr. Pepper is the worst. Your cooch gon' smell. Basically, if you're dehydrated, you'll have a problem. Disclaimer, I'm not a professional by any means, just got some of this info from my doctor. If you're worried about your cooch smell, then go see a gyno. But I drink a shitty ton of water after having a minor problem a few years back and I've not had a problem since. Dated a girl with RC, rotten crotch, for a couple of years. Yes, years. It wasn't horrible like your chick but definitely noticeable. When I first met her, she didn't shave too well down there so I convinced her to do that hoping that it would get rid of the smell. Nope, nothing. It was always a so-so relationship but I constantly thought about if she were to get pregnant and being in the delivery room where everyone else could smell her stinky snatch would be too embarrassing. We eventually broke up for several reasons but that was definitely one of them. Alright, I know the women will downvote me for this but it's the truth and relevance to the up story. I don't have a story to answer your question with, but your story reminds me of a girl I used to know. I used to room with a girl who I didn't get on with at all. She was an alright person. Obviously not my flavor but sweet. But for some reason we just hated living together. We were both miserable and neither of us could tolerate the other. It got to the point where I could hear her bad mouthing me to her friends on the phone in the other room when she thought I wasn't listening. One of the really weird things was that ever since she moved in there had always been this kind of weird funk emanating from the bathroom. You kind of noticed it in the adjacent room, but if you wanted to take a leak it became really apparent. Like a really heavy, thick smell. Not like a bathroom smell at all. Something that seemed kind of familiar but that I couldn't finger. Like this musky, fishy stink. So thick you could almost feel it on your skin. Eventually I realized it was vag. This girl had the smelliest vagina I have ever encountered in my personal life. I guess anytime she dropped her pants the aroma of her nethers filled whatever room she happened to be in. It was rank as frick. You could have used this vag for chemical warfare research. If it had turned out that a particular type of molecule previously unknown to science and capable of actually aggressively seeking out and attacking olfactory receptors existed in this girl's pee, I would not have batted an eyelash. So yeah, whenever I heard her going on about what sort of person I was, I would just smile quietly and think to myself, B, you have a smelly vagina. I had recently heard the song 21 Questions by 50 Cent and it brought back a series of flashbacks of me discovering a cell phone inside my garage. That song was set as the ringtone, back when those ringtones sounded all 8-bit and barely like the real song. And I remember thinking my mom and dad finally got me a cell phone. I remember walking up to my mom and dad with the cell phone I found and asked them if it was for me. I think Christmas or my birthday was coming up. They looked at each other and told me to give it to them and they were gonna have a talk about it. I thought nothing of it at the time, but I'm almost 100% certain now that it was a second cell phone my dad had to call the woman he was cheating on my mom with. It's a pretty strange feeling when you realize you might actually be the reason your parents divorced. Sometimes I wonder if I had never found that phone and my mom never found out either, would my dad have just gotten bored messing around with that woman and if he would still live here? TL. DR. Sorry dad. Dude, you should not be apologizing to your dad. Plus your dad caused them to get a divorce, not you. Holy crap. I read the title as I recently found out that I've been unknowingly selling my friend's vagina for years. LOL. That desolated quickly. I used to be a really big guy, 6 feet 5 inches 330 pounds. I used to live by the fat person's motto, I'd rather die young than live a long life without tasty food. I kept that motto until I ended up in the hospital for a week and was told by a doctor I had to lose weight or else I would literally die. I changed my diet and started training 6 days a week and lost over 100 pounds in less than a year. And I'm still losing weight quickly. I noticed my arms were shrinking quite fast. So to avoid skinny arms I started lifting weights and built some muscles. I became a lot more confident and started socializing more. My sister started introducing me to her friends, and she would buy me cool clothes she knew girls would like. Having a sister has some perks. One day I was standing in front of a mirror with my new clothes, lifting a dumbbell and admiring my muscles. That was the moment I realized, holy crap, I'm becoming a douchebag. I was in the hospital once suffering from, OMG it's the big one, chest pain. I was lying on the bed waiting for the doctor to tell me and my wife if I was going to die or something equally sucky. Then over in the next bed, divided by only a single thin sheet, came in a guy and a gal with what had to have been grandma to one or both of them. Grandma is about 80 and evidently in very poor health. I couldn't really hear what they were talking about at first. And suddenly grandma lets out the most incredible thunderous fart I can remember hearing. This was immediately followed by oh dear and apparently gallons of runny dahi. We were laughing like utter fools, faces red, but quietly because we didn't want the old gal to feel bad. You could hear it splattering off the walls, and after a few minutes, the most incredible smell. We were honestly in awe. The nurses, janitor, anyone who could help came in to clean it up, and after about 10 minutes it happened again. Grandpa had nasty BO, but I never understood that until one day I started smelling like grandpa and told my mom and she said time for deodorant. I know of a similar situation. A girl I went to high school with had a similar problem. On a bigger scale, if you were within 3 feet of her you could smell her vag, and it wasn't a pleasant smell. What always got me was she was smoking hot, but didn't know how to wash her vag. You know, I first created Vagisil to help my wife, Patty. She is my muse, my flame. Wherever Patty goes, her smile lights up the room. Her vagina, on the other hand, clears the room and makes it uninhabitable for weeks. You think you have it bad? I have hyperosmia, which is an increased heightened sense of smell. The most potent smell to me is blood. Along with that, I can smell when you're on your periods. This wasn't necessarily horrible for me, but for my conservative parents. The day I realized my personal opinions don't match up with the strong Republican ideals my parents have raised me with my entire life. One night at the dinner table I said I believed in gay marriage, and they were horror struck with the terrible realization that their daughter is, and I quote them directly, "a liberal now after attending one semester of college being brain washed by all those Democrat college professors." Gasp. I had another horrible realization at the age of 15 or so, when I realized there wasn't actually a transformation that took place between teenager and adulthood. For whatever reason, growing up I always figured that there was some transformation that made people smarter, more mature and more adult. When I realized that every adult is essentially an extension of their 18-year-old selves, I pretty much lost all hope. When I've been told in the past about completely platonic and essentially asexual guy friends having massive penises, when my female friends date guys I work with or whatever, it's horribly uncomfortable to know about people I do not want to know anything about. Dated a guy once when he asked me a weird question. He asked if he could take my tampon out. Of course I told him no. We broke up later but remained friends. He recently called me and told me a girl finally let him do it. He pulled out a tampon, painted a picture with it, then jacked off on the picture. God know what he did with said picture. Glad it wasn't me. TLDR. Ex-boyfriend paints with bodily fluids. Welp, that's enough internet for one day. Same story except it was my childhood dog. She was very kissy and always had the worst breath. We gave her all kinds of breath treatments, dog biscuits, teeth cleanings, etc. One day, easily 5 years after I first noticed, she went to the vet and we found out she had an infection down there. Got antibiotics to clear it up and immediately and seemingly magically the breath never smelled like that again. I guess dogs can lick down there. TLDR. I don't let dogs lick me anymore. A friend of mine has a pretty funky roommate. This roommate had a GF for a long time and they decided they wanted to try anal sex. First time for both of them. Well, apparently her insides did not react well to the assault. She proceeded to poop everywhere. Yeah, it was so bad that she felt she needed to go to the hospital. It gets worse. This funky roommate woke up my friend asking for help. After quite a bit of convincing, my friend went into the room to help soothe the upset girl and clean up the mess. He slipped in some of the poop and broke his arm. So, all three of them were in the air, smelling like poop, and trying to find an elegant way to explain the situation. My friend has that exact problem. I never noticed the smell until my friend slept with her and told me. Now I notice it, and smell it even on the other end of the sofa to her. My cousin had been dating the same guy on and off for 6 years. They always had the same problem. The first month everything was cool until 8 or 9 months down the road they'd break up. According to her it was because they argued too much, never had sex, and he was distant. About 2 weeks ago her and I are having dinner and drinks when she shares something I always suspected. Apparently, during their most recent breakup he admitted to her that not only does she have a particularly strong BO, but her snatch smells horrendous. He said he couldn't frick her or stay hard because of how badly she smells and that he can't deal with it anymore. Obviously embarrassed for her, I ask what she's going to do. She says nothing. It's not my problem if he has such a sensitive sense of smell. I tell her that maybe she would feel better about herself if she was fresh. And I tell her that millions of women have similar issues and use special products and deodorants. She continues to say no. Her logic is that if other guys are willing to frick me, then he should too. I point out that none have stuck around longer than a month. But she ignored that. That same night we go back to my house where she uses the bathroom. I walked in right after her because I too had to tinkle. The smell in that bathroom was so foul I vomited all over my shower curtain. I convinced her I drank too much, but it was that stanky pee. I no longer feel bad for her. She just needs to fricking scrub her bag. TLDR. My cousin's pee is so vile, she can't keep a guy around. When I was a kid, my mom used to treat herself with chunky Monkey Ben & Jerry's ice cream every payday. A Thursday, she would warn us kids, under penalty of death, to not fricking touch it, or else. Her or else could literally be anything. So what did I do, being the oldest, and by default, baddest of all asses? Touch it. Every time. She would save all the little fudge pieces till the end, so I would wait for a few days, say Saturday, so a few would be built up, and she wouldn't miss that minute. I did this crap for her. Then, one day, and I remember this day like I was witnessing the sweet baby Jesus being born. I came into the front room and my mom was enjoying her ice cream watching Roseanne. Specifically the episode where Roseanne was watching Jackie's baby and was under strict instructions not to give him cookies because that's what their mother did, and it was somehow traumatic. Anyway, I looked over and watched my mom take a spoonful of ice cream, pop it into her mouth, savor it, suck the ice cream free of the fudge, and spit it back into the carton. This whole time, I'd been eating my mother's spit fudge. She makes me tell this story on the reg. This isn't exactly what the OP is asking for, but still seems kinda relevant. I've figured out that my natural musk smells like catnip. Seriously, cats go bat crap insane over it. While I was at high school I'd always leave my bag near the back door when I got home. On numerous occasions I'd find my cat rubbing his face all over it, like a chef going nuts grating cheese. I played keeper for my high school hockey team and at any opportunity the cat would come close to making love to my gear bag. You know how cats do that weird tumble thing onto their back and then squirm around when they get a whiff? While I was lying on my SOS bed with my hands behind my bed, her cat slowly stalks up to my armpit and flops over purring and trying to rub her nose there. It's freaking strange. Possibly the worst real life superpower ever. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.